Okay, let's look at the journal entries associated with notes payable transactions. In this particular case, it says we purchased equipment costing $28,000 by issuing a 1-year 9% note payable. That was on November 1st. Then on December 31st, we need to accrue the interest because they must be preparing their financial statements. And then a year later, we're actually going to pay off the note. So they must only prepare their financials once a year. Okay, so let's look at what that entry would look like on November 1st. So we purchased equipment. So anytime we're going to buy equipment, we would debit equipment. That's going to increase our asset equipment. And that was for $28,000. And we didn't pay cash. It says we issued a 1-year note. So in that case, we're going to credit notes payable, which also will increase that liability for $28,000. Okay, so let's go ahead, and then on the December 31st, we need to accrue the interest. Well, let's look at what that interest calculation would look like. It's $28,000 times 9% times 2/12. The reason it's 2/12 is we have the month of November and the month of December. That's 2 months out of a 1-year note. That equals $420, I believe. So when we're going to accrue the interest, we want to show the interest that's been incurred. So we'll debit interest expense. For $420. And we'll credit the liability now, interest payable, for $420. Since that time has gone by, we now have an obligation to pay the $420 in interest. Even if we paid it off tomorrow, we would have still incurred $420 worth of interest. So both of those are going up. All right, the very last thing is to show payment of the note at maturity. So let's go ahead on November 1st, show what that would look like. Well, we know we have to get rid of this liability here, notes payable. We want to get rid of that. And since it's a credit, the only way to get rid of that is going to be to debit notes payable. For $28,000. Those two then will actually cancel each other out. Because I had a credit, now I have a debit for the same amount of money. That will be a zero effect. The other thing we're going to have to do here is debit our interest payable for the same reason. We have that liability for $420 from the 31st of December, and we want to get rid of that. So if we had a credit here for interest payable, and we now debit it, those two will cancel each other out. So that's a good thing. We want to wipe off all those liabilities because we're paying them off. We're still going to have, in this case, let's see, interest that we've incurred that we're now going to pay off. And this will be between December and November. So between this last date when I made an entry to record the interest, we have now 10 more months worth of interest. So we take 28,000 times 9% times 10 over 12. That's between December and November. We should get $2,100 worth of interest that we've incurred and that we're going to pay. And then the credit to cash to pay it all off, all the monies that we owe, which is the face value of the note, plus $420 in interest for the first 2 months of 2012, or the last 2 months of 2012, and then $2,100 for the first 10 months of 2013. And that should be $30,500